I'll take my Bluetooth.
I haven't experienced that. So maybe what brand car are you driving?
Well, I have a Subaru, but I put in an aftermarket Pioneer CarPlay. It was one of the first aftermarket CarPlay units, so it's
You
all.
still driving that Subaru?
Hmm?
You still driving that Subaru?
Yeah, I'm listing it for sale like this week. I think I'm finally going to move to something. The boss said he needs me to be able to get to work reliably, so I said, okay, I need a new car.
It's going to help you out with that.
Subaru is not reliable. What the hell have you done to it?
Well, it's not reliable when you've done too many things to it and they don't all add up right. So I've had a lot of fun with that car, but every 3 months I got to replace another AVCS solenoid or a sensor, or it just random things die.
Well, you should turn to your boss and say, "What are you going to give me now?"
Yeah, we're getting close to that. It's a 2005 Forester Turbo, so
okay, yeah.
225,000 kilometers. Like it's ready to pop.
Yeah. Who romps out a Subaru Forester?
Apparently, Craig.
I do love it, and the dumb thing is, 225,000 kilometers. It's still worth like $10,000. It's
how many miles is that? We're in the United States, bro.
I have no idea.
Miles, not kilometers.
Doesn't matter. It's never gonna die. Just buy it.
Not with all the shit you got hooked up to it.
It's a good weekend beater.
Yeah.
Well, look, we are live. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. We've got some of our refreshers with us today. We've got Craig and we've got Alex. So looking forward to this. I think we just sort of have a hodgepodge of conversation today. Talk about a couple of different things, some different things happening in the forums. I know, Alex, you've got quite a few questions for these gentlemen. And
we might have to come up with which Alex we're talking to.
Yeah, true. Yeah. You're the only real Alex.
I know that's why I requested you guys to change my name to Alex, and I know you didn't, just so you could keep it straight.
True.
Can we call you the Lau?
You can call me Lau.
Yeah, Lau.
I'm really Lau.
You can call me Snyder. I'm down.
Just both German names. I think we all have German names, actually. What's going on here?
Dutch, but close.
Behind me, guys.
Cool. So, Alex, we'll take this and we'll just have some fun with it for sure. And I believe what we're going to do between now and next week, we've got some digital dealer tickets to give away. And we're going to give one away this week. So in order to be able to participate with that, just comment, share, and then I think sometime mid next week we'll pick a winner. And that's a free ticket for Digital Dealer. Have anyone here been to Digital Dealer?
Yeah.
It's been a couple of years, but I used to go to
it's been a long time. It's been a long time. So we'll get that a little bit soon. But yeah, Alex and I would go there all the time, and then we got kicked out. That was Alex's fault.
Yep, damn right.
Yep, Alex decided it was what was it? April 1st Fool's joke. Alex decides to write this article about Digital Dealer has canceled their show.
But you get a free iPad.
It's fantastic.
Has canceled their show, and all of a sudden I get a shit ton of phone calls. Mike Roscoe calls me up. He goes, "I'm suing your ass."
No shit.
So he was able to show where I guess a handful of dealerships actually canceled because they thought it was truly canceled.
Yeah.
So that's
thrown in Brian Pat. Just thrown like Brian Pat's name in or something too, just to make it like really.
Yeah.
Didn't Pash got banned too at one point, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he did. Yeah.
Because
we all got together. Yeah, we all got together, the group who's been banned from Digital Dealer, and took a photo. Here. We'll have to find.
I don't know who has that photo though.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
Well, Alex, let's dive into it. What are some of the topics for today?
Well, first off, we want to say that Podium is a phenomenal sponsor of DealerRefresh, and
Podium. A little bit of reputation management.
They are reputation management, and they do have a texting solution too that's worth looking at, because it's a little different than other texting solutions that are currently in the marketplace.
What makes this so different?
Well, it's less of a managed service that they're doing, and it's more of I'm trying to think of how to word it, but the dealer gets to take more control of it. Let's just put it like that. Gotcha. So it's worth going to DealerRefresh, finding that podium ad, click on it. Click on all of our ads. We appreciate that. That's probably the best thing you can do for us.
Was that Steve Stoning, Act Click Friday?
Yeah, that's right.
Act Click Friday. Just click on all the ads. Help support.
Yep.
Good stuff. We gotta have him back on. We haven't spoken to Steve for a while. Of course, he always, he likes to come on here and promote his books.
I was thinking of some good pairings for Steve. We could have some real fun here.
Good pairings.
Yeah, like well, could we have Steve and Jeffrey Tognetti?
Oh, that could get fun.
Wow.
Yeah. So
we were saying Berna and Tognetti would be crazy.
Oh, that'd be a good one too.
Yeah, we talked about that one earlier. We said we probably had to take some type of brain pills, like a week in advance, and like supplement all the way up to that day.
Translation of what they're trying to say in these technical terms. Way over my head.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what we're doing here today is we've got Alexander Lau and Craig Hooghiem, who I butchered his name earlier. I owe him a big apology, which I sent to you this morning. I just want to put it on the record, face-to-face, sort of face-to-face, that I apologize. I did not follow the good rule of English, which is I before E except after C, and misspelled your last name.
That's okay. I accept the apology.
Okay, thanks. I can go to sleep now. I'll sleep better tonight. All right. So also this morning, Craig and I were chatting back and forth about a little revelation. And we've been seeing, and thanks to Jeffrey Tognetti, who we mentioned earlier, for coming up with something that exposes maybe some wrongdoing. I don't want to get too far into the allegedly track of words here, but we do have somebody who's been busted for doing something allegedly that is a little bit of data theft category, and Jeffrey brought that to light. Thank you. But in all of that, I started to realize this morning that potentially dealers' privacy policies are not as relevant or strong as they probably should be now, as so many dealers have so many tags and scripts on their sites that are watching what's going on in these websites and then potentially selling that data to some other party for many other different reasons. It could be a vendor is just trying to make your ads better, and they're trying to collect information and make you stronger, but that information is going to someone else. And a lot of these privacy acts don't get into a lot of depth as to how far somebody's data is going. And I started to think that maybe dealers should be talking to their attorneys to find out whether they need to change their in-store Privacy Act notices to be more in line with their website Privacy Act notice as well. What do you guys think?
Why would you say in-store?
So the in-store notice, actually I can share an old one. This one's probably nearly 10 years old. This is from, my checkered flag days. This is one that ADP, as you can see down here, supplied us. So this is even prior to CDK. Tell you how old it is. But this goes through what's going to happen with the customer's financial information. So we're looking at Social Security numbers and income and maybe account balances and payment history, things that you pull up in a credit report. If this hasn't been updated, to also start to talk about how some of the anonymized data might be shared. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but I just started thinking maybe there's some marriage of Privacy Act things that might need to occur to better protect dealers now that we're starting to figure out that, hey, the data that's on my website, which I thought belonged to me, is going all over the place and being used for who knows what.
That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah, and we're seeing internationally, you're seeing a lot more of this. Like overseas, they have the GDPR, which is probably the strictest set of regulations about when you come to a website, they have to pop up and say, hey, we're tracking you for analytics purposes. And do you want to opt into this or do you want to opt out? And for a lot of what they do, they're not allowed to do it until you opt in now. And if you ask them to remove all information about you, they must comply. And this applies to essentially any data they capture on you. And if you go to the source of that data, like Google Analytics, for example, you can ask for your data to be removed from all locations at once. And I think it's inevitable that that will end up coming over here as well, because it's a privacy concern that's on the rise. Which means dealers are going to have to update a lot more than just their privacy policy if that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And we were talking about SpinCar and how those scripts are primarily installed on VDPs, but how many scripts were installed, or historically speaking, across dealer websites, how many scripts were installed across pages that do pull customer information, right? Whether it's on the same site, financial forms, typically that's a third-party embed, but there are forms and whatnot on various components of websites, as you can attest to, Craig, that probably have been siphoned off over the years. So it's not just what's going on now with SpinCar and VDPs. It's all over the place, I think.
Yeah. Right. So if you are going in and let's say the most blanketed script that's going on through most dealership websites is probably Google Analytics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's installed in the header of every page. Right?
Yeah, that would be the most widespread, but there's definitely far more intrusive ones because Google has a very strict policy about not providing unique identifiers for users unless you add your own data parameters. So a number of people will add their own parameters and they will hash the IP, for example, and pass that along to Google Analytics, at which point they do have a fairly unique identifier.
And is Google doing anything with that data themselves? I mean, they do have an ad network, don't they?
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I can only imagine you're using it for a number of things because even if you look at SEO, I'd be hard pressed to believe that Google's not using analytics data to determine which websites perform the best and therefore ranking them better. Because ultimately their goal is to provide the most relevant results for your search query. If they have analytics data from the top 10 sites, they can tell you which one was the most relevant to every user that visited that page. I can only assume they're using that data because it would be great for their business model.
Yeah, they've got it.
Yeah. It falls in line exactly in terms of how they organically rank, there's no doubt. So there's some equation there that they're using and siphoning off that data. I would agree.
So, Alex, and I can say Alex, but if somebody else says Alex, somebody's going to have to differentiate. But you've been in the the attribution business for a while, and in all this stuff that we're starting to that's becoming exposed. How are some of these attribution companies piecing things together?
Good question. I don't know. There's a lot of talk out there that states it's going to be tough for standalone attribution tools to make it in the future. It kind of goes along with what your talk with Berna was in reference to, that the future isn't pixel based. So there's got to be some universal mechanism in the future to measure this stuff that's going to happen. And all the legalities that are going to come down, something else you guys talked about in your last video. And I think both sides legislatively agree on that because I don't think most Americans want to be tracked, right? So how is that all going to play out in the future? I don't know. Is it bleak for attribution companies, or do those attribution components exist within a greater business intelligence tool? I don't know. I mean, I guess the future will tell us, obviously, but Google's clamping down by not providing IDs any longer, right? So that's another issue. How they're not going to be able to pull in Google performance metrics? It just seems like it would weaken the overall tool, right?
Well, so if I'm an attribution company and I get my hands on maybe a cookie, can I go and ask other companies to help identify certain pieces of that cookie to the point where I can piece together something that is identifiable?
Yeah, I believe they can, but I think the overlying issue here is the inability to install that pixel on all the different websites out there that need to be tracked, right? So how's that going to work in the future if the laws don't allow those to be installed and for that data to come in? Is it going to be a full picture, in terms of multi-touch attribution? So,
oh yeah, you're talking about the future. I'm just wondering about how it happens right now.
Now, I thought you were just asking in reference to what would happen. Yeah, I mean, I think that method can be had as well. I wasn't on the development side, so yeah, I believe that can easily assist in determining who's who for sure.
Okay. So Craig, same, in trying to de-anonymize data, let's say, how easy is it to do some of that now?
Well, for an individual, it's tough, but to go purchase that data to the extent where you have a user profile that's built out of, 15 different data sources, and only one of those data sources has to give you a name. So a lot of things, like there will be a plugin on a website that tracks every keystroke you enter, and they track the input that you had in focus while you were making those keystrokes. So if there's a field called first name and you type your name, even if you don't submit that form, they track that data and they record it against a unique identifier for you that wasn't your name until they added that to it. But then that gets combined with data from American Express or countless other companies, and that then creates kind of a consumer profile for you. And that's what a lot of companies like Jeffrey from DealerX was saying. They combine all of that data to build a profile that is, sellable, can be a lead, or can at least give you insight into your market and things like that. And that's incredibly common right now.
Yeah, it's scary. Or you used a word earlier, horrific.
Yeah, if you really walk people through how it works and how they connect your business to your home, to your car, to your phone, and then they connect all of your devices, and then they track your buying habits, these guys know what type of car you're going to buy or what type of car you're looking for. And they can tell, the Nissan dealer on the other side of town, this guy's going to the other Nissan dealer. If you send him a postcard in the mail, you might be able to intercept that deal.
Yeah, which is very valuable to any dealer who wants to sell cars.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a catch-22.
Yeah, and this has been going on. I mean, the famous example everyone talks about was when I believe it was Target that had sent the, pregnancy advertisements to some girl before her parents knew she was pregnant. And this sort of thing has been going on forever, where they use this data to determine what you're in the market for and then start marketing to it. And, I have a number of people, a never-ending list of people that are telling me, well, the other day we were talking about a new stove, and now I'm suddenly getting ads for a stove. And I never typed that into Google. I just said it out loud. It's like, yeah, you said it out loud with your phone, and your phone was listening, and now it knows. Yeah. And I mean, I've got 5 or 6 devices in my house that listen to everything I say, and I'm hoping that my ads will be very relevant.
So why would anyone have an Alexa or what's the Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon Alexa, and I've got the Google
now. Like, why would you have that in your? How am I going to have one of those things in my house?
Well, what else are you going to just say, order toilet paper, and then get toilet paper delivered to your house? I mean, that's the device.
Well, it's not the device that's doing this, much like it's not the dealership website that's sending this information out. It's the other things that are attached to it. So take your phone, for example. Like if you've got an iPhone, Hey Siri is something that your phone's, like mine just popped up. is I gotta turn that off. But but when you say that, it's ready to go. It's waiting for you to say that. Everything else you're saying gets stored too. It's not just sitting back waiting for those two little words to pop out. It's capturing a lot that's being said, and it stores it locally. And then other apps are accessing that local data and sending it out.
Yeah, and that's the more data places they can capture that data, because now you have the devices in your home and the device that's in your pocket all day, the device on your wrist, your car now phones home in many cases with the new cars. I mean, there's very little, like one of the things that I use to show people to kind of open their eyes is the Google Maps tool. Because if you have an Android phone, Google Maps has a tool that shows you everywhere that you've gone for, I believe, the last year. And if you load this up, it shows everything. And people look at that and go, wow, like, how did it do that? Well, your Google operating system, your Google browser in your car using, your Google car technology, everything about it is just tracking your location at all times. And they're not selling that data in Google's case, or so they claim. I mean, they do tell you how many people were at your dealership at a certain time. So they're selling the anonymized version of that data. But yeah, people don't realize that's tracking them because they assume that if Facebook is closed, Facebook isn't tracking me anymore. But that's not how it works. Every app that uses Facebook login can technically track you, and Facebook can get their hands on that data either through brokers or direct access. I mean, there's endless ways for them to get this data.
So it wasn't cars doing that with geofencing. When a user would get close to the store, they were able to pull that user's data to understand where they were, what they were looking at. I mean, I think cars was involved with that from the beginning on the automotive side.
They have a report that shows through mobile where these customers were potentially, yeah. I'm guessing it was probably exactly what Craig was talking about.
Yeah.
But I know, and I know you probably laugh at me because I still use Foursquare.
I will.
Does it help your clout score, Jeff?
It does, matter of fact. That's why I still use it. But yeah, I'll go in there and be like, holy shit, like I didn't have this app turned on, but a new, like he's like, the past 30 places you've been, or the past month, would you like to check in? I'm like, this shit wasn't even on. Like, why do you know all this? Why do you know I was here, and here?
Oh, the one that blows me, like scares the crap out of me is these free games that you get that use the accelerometer feature of your phone. So like Angry Birds or something that, you're moving your phone around. It's able to use the is it a gyroscope? What is the accelerometer thing?
Accelerometer, gyroscopes. They've got like 6 different sensors in there.
So it takes those and it's able to figure out your driving pattern. So they can figure out where you work. They can figure out where you live. So there's so many clever things going on in all these devices that we use all the time. It's scary.
And this is where
I've posted a few times just randomly, like in the future, dealers might be inclined to put cameras in their stores that are of a biometric nature, so they'll be able to match offline with online and build a profile based upon that. In my opinion, as soon as anyone's ever uploaded a selfie, I mean, it's going to know who you are based upon that and pull that data and match you up. So that's something dealers may want to do, but I guess that kind of goes back to the in-store privacy agreement that you were talking about.
Yeah. One of the areas where I see some concern is if you look at Android, for example, they do a much better job than Apple of saying this app is going to use the following sensors and collect the following data. The problem is that provides, there's a really good article about this about a month ago. That provides a bit of a safety blanket because you assume, okay, this application is not using my location because it's Angry Birds, and therefore they don't know where I am. But Angry Birds does have access to the Wi-Fi networks, so it knows where those Wi-Fi networks are, and therefore knows that you are within 200 meters of that Wi-Fi network. And then they use your accelerometer, and then they use the gyroscope, and they use all of these sensors to piece together your location to within 50 meters, indifferent of the fact that they're not using your location data itself. And so you may feel secure, but all of these applications in the background, and now the last report is they don't even have to be open in the background anymore. They're just collecting and amassing that data and tracking absolutely everything.
Yeah. That's the reason they built the game in the first place, to get that
one
data.
quick thing, guys. Hey, the Facebook live stream just died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm coming and going a little.
That's Facebook.
I'm not breaking anybody's face anymore. That's good.
Well, we're exposing all of Facebook's secrets. They
That's
don't
why
want that.
died.
Yeah. They just shut us down. The Facebook Illuminati is here.
I think another thing that I don't think gets discussed enough is Facebook years ago was looking at coming out with a browser. But people often forget that Google owns Chrome, which has probably still the largest market share of all browsers. And the data that they get there, I'm sure they're not technically tracking it, all of it, but there's a scary amount of things they have access to. And I use Chrome on my phone, on every single one of my computers. It synchronizes everything across all of them. So I'm making it extremely easy for them to connect those dots, because I'm sure there's even some way for them to check my Chrome version ID as part of their fingerprint of me. And so it's, you're never going to be able to stop all of it. Things like a VPN and using a Brave browser or whatever will help you at least mitigate some of that. But inevitably, you're going to get tracked by these guys.
Okay.
Well, one of the things that I'd like to get out of today is a short little clip that we can put in some future videos for Dealer Refresh, where we do walk somebody through how data from their website is getting into into some places that they didn't know about and being used kind of against them. So, while we're maybe waiting on Facebook to come back up, maybe we can.
I think my Facebook is back up. It looks like it's working.
It's up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I see it.
All right. Well, I'll keep watching. I still want to get that clip though.
Craig, your man.
So, we've got the thread on the forums for Spin Car getting busted. And in there, if you were to read through all 9 to 10 pages that are currently there and read every single post and digested every single post, you could probably get a very good understanding and appreciation for what's happening. But outside of the four of us, I don't think anyone else is doing that. So, and of course, Jeffrey Tognetti and probably Joe Pastel. But if we were to make a really quick statement about it, I'll take a stab and you guys tell me if I'm way off base. So I have a script on my website, and this script or plugin is looking at all the data that's happening, and it's collecting cookies and collecting all sorts of stuff that it's then taking and possibly selling or just submitting. It could be anything, but it's taking that data and giving it to another organization of some sort, which is then taking that information and then putting it into, say, an ad network. And that ad network is finding this data very valuable because these are in-market shoppers. And it is then tuning their own stuff to then take whoever is using that ad network and make their ads better for those in-market shoppers. So if I'm a car dealer and I have a bunch of shoppers that are coming onto my website, all this goes on and the data goes back, and it happens in milliseconds. It happens so fast that the only person or the only thing that's going to be interested in buying that data is going to be what? Another car dealer that's probably using that ad network? Potentially
a lead provider. I mean, I wouldn't put any names out there, but there's a bunch of them in the automotive world that exist that may be even purchasing this through, another buyer. They're unaware of where the source of these leads might come from, so
and then the data might come from. Sell that lead right back to me?
Could very well. I'm sure it's been done. Again, I don't want to use any the automotive data company names, but
yeah, I mean,
there's just some dodgy situations in history.
If some of their data sources include your dealership website and you are buying leads from one of these lead providers, there's a very good chance that you're going to buy your own data back at some point. It just may have done 3 hops before it got back to you because, like in the spin car example, spin car themselves are not brokering that data to someone. They partner with someone, that company is then siphoning that data and doing the actual transactions. So they're also, that company is also not selling directly to the dealership right next door to you. They're going to sell it to someone else who amasses it with other data and builds consumer profiles that can be sold as leads. And again, demographics or other things like that.
Yeah, because it looks like, let's just be honest about it. It looks like, from the first post that you had made, Alex, was that SpinCar was siphoning it off and selling it to Nielsen, I guess. And who knows what Nielsen's doing with it once they have it, right? How is that distributed? I don't know. Who knows? Yeah,
and I want to point out that, I got all that from Jeffrey Tognetti. Yeah. So I personally did not do the work to figure that out.
I think one of the interesting things is that Jeffrey wasn't necessarily saying what they're doing is wrong. He was saying the fact that they're doing it without telling you is wrong. Because later in the book, it says, look, we buy data from all kinds of companies like this, but they have to disclose it to their clients. If they're willing to disclose it to their clients, he was willing to buy that data. So it's not the data capture that was the problem. It was the manner in which they did it without telling people.
I like Chris Leslie's comment on Facebook where he says, I don't think the issue is with the collection of data. It's not even the selling of the data. It's the selling of the data without paying me. He wants in.
Yeah, I mean,
and who wouldn't?
Depends on the agreement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of concepts going around for products like that where you will manage your own consumer profile, and if a company wants access to that data, they will pay you 1 cent or 12 cents or whatever, and they get access to your data. And you do that with the understanding that you're going to get more advertisements that are highly targeted, and that they're very likely going to press all the right buttons because they know more about you. But at the same time, you are essentially just consenting to, okay, if you're going to do it, at least give me my cut.
Right.
Looks like Facebook crashed us again.
Yeah, I see it.
This has never happened before. Getting knocked off Facebook.
Here we are talking about this topic, and
it's very
sort of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think Josh is.
Where's my tinfoil hat?
Yeah. JS Cool 86 always asks some good questions. I think his name's Josh, and he asked Jeffrey Tognetti about.
Oh, that's Josh Cole.
Yeah, smart guy.
Yeah, he is. What was he asking?
He had posed a question stating, so the underlying point of the whole thread is that the shopper data is being sold directly from dealer sites, and it is being used as a conquest marketing product. And so then I saw a text image on the website interested in conquesting your local competition dealers' website visitors, which at first glance seems very appealing to a dealer until you start thinking about this thread and how in the hell they get this data. If you don't mind sharing at Jeffrey Tognetti, where do you guys get this data from, or where does the company you get it from? And then Jeffrey, replied. It was interesting. Question. It was really, yeah. On both sides, and they both had good points. So,
And to Jeffrey's credit, I've met with DealerX at the conferences, and I've asked them about where they get their data, and they're very transparent about where they get it from. They don't hide it. They say, we buy this from this company. These guys can tell us approximately how much that person spends a month, or this company can tell us where they live. This company tells us where they work. We know roughly what the salary is at that company from this provider. All of these companies like DealerX, they have such a broad spectrum of data that they're collecting. The accuracy is not always perfect, but when it comes to a specific target like automotive dealers, if that's your client that you're selling to, they can extrapolate enough to say this person's in the market for a new car versus just servicing their car. But when you get into other industries, it's a lot more complicated. But with cars, we have the benefit of, one of the biggest purchases that you ever make it's a pretty significant thing with some pretty strong indicators of when someone is in market and when they're not in market, or when they typically should be in market, maybe they're not, or have they visited 2 dealerships in the last 15 days, because that's pretty unlikely that they're doing anything besides shopping for a car for someone.
Yeah, we're definitely having some fun here with Facebook today, and my guess is Jeff is trying to boost his internet connection right now. That could be.
I'm still seeing live streaming on Facebook, but I don't know.
Oh, it keeps getting interrupted for me.
Yeah, I'm coming and going here.
Yeah. Okay.
Made Alex was that spin car was cycling it off and
you want to mute yourself there. So, well, why don't we have a really fun conversation here, because we haven't had one of those yet. Hey, Craig, what do you think of Tesla?
Phenomenal cars, some of the best cars on the road, always built on time, no concerns at all. All the panels always line up, which is my favorite part about these cars.
So, how do you as a Canadian feel about Tesla's move
in Ontario?
Yeah.
I don't have all the facts on the situation, but I do believe that their inability to deliver the cars on time was a significant contributing factor to the whole dilemma itself. There were tax credits that were available that are no longer available. And if you didn't take delivery of your car, you didn't get your tax credit. There's obviously a lot more to it, but the premise there is, try and deliver your cars on time if you're going to take pre-orders for cars, and you probably have a lot less of those issues.
Simple enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was expecting a huge rant and rave, and I'm
doing my best to restrain myself here. It's a lot of my friends
are turning a little red.
Alex, that car was cycling it off and selling it to Nielsen.
Somebody's got their Facebook video.
Yeah.
Who knows what Nielsen's doing it with it once they have it, right? How is that?
I think everyone's Facebook just came back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends are huge Tesla fans, and I truly do love the cars. Like the car, when it's built right and it's there, is a phenomenal car to drive. They're incredibly fast. The technology is just insane. But it's the way they're delivering and manufacturing and the issues that he's had that, it's not something I would expect Elon to be an expert at. He's amazing at rocket science. He's amazing at all this electrical technology. The dilemma is manufacturing is a whole different beast, and you can't just be the best at everything. And I think his technology with the right manufacturing partner would have changed everything even faster than Tesla changed the industry today.
That's a good point. That might be.
Wasn't there some talk about Apple potentially buying them, Craig?
Yeah, at one point Apple was getting in the car game. I believe they're out of that entirely now, but I'm not sure. Like even the self-driving car concept, which we're at, I believe, stage 2 of 4 or 5 stages that we're trying to get to, seems to be way ahead of everyone else. But if you look at all these different companies that are doing it, that the media will make it seem like we're so close to having self-driving cars. But the reality is that if you leave a big city, there's no way you can use a self-driving car reliably out in the middle of nowhere or in rural America. And this whole concept that Elon promised of your car being able to drive from San Francisco to pick you up at the airport in New York, and it was going to charge itself on the way. I mean, it's an absurd concept that he thought that was going to be available in the next couple of years.
You can't do that?
No, not quite. I mean, you can if you have a driver in the car driving it to you, no problem.
All right. Well, I'm sure some people might be shocked to find out that Craig is Canadian. So, surprise. But I have another question for you, Craig. So, the Canadian market, the automotive markets in particular, are a little different than the United States. You kind of work in both. What are some of the differences you've seen?
So fundamentally, one of the biggest differences is just population density, which also correlates to dealership density. You know, a decent sized city is going to have 2 or 3 Ford dealerships, but you're not going to see 2 Ford dealerships on the same street or within a couple kilometers of each other, very seldom. And so because of that, a lot of the marketing and tools and concepts that you see the American dealers going with aren't as relevant in Canada, just because, like specifically in a lot of places, if your dealership is trying to conquest the Ford dealership that's nearest to you, that could be 100 kilometers away. I mean, there's in many cases, your conquest is for other manufacturers rather than just Ford customers. But we also have, like on the regulatory side, I'm in Ontario. We essentially have a California system. So most of our regulation is incredibly focused on consumer protection in theory, a lot of consumer protection and making sure that, you know, if you put out an advertisement for a car now, you need to include the finance rate that was used to calculate that number, the total cost of borrowing, the formula that was used to calculate the total cost of borrowing.
Hold on, the formula?
Yes, so they have to say this is the cost of borrowing and show like based on this list price with this percentage. And we have the same thing with credit cards in Canada now, where on your credit card statement, it has to tell you how much interest you've accrued, or if you make the payments, how many years it will take you to pay off that credit card bill.
So on a lease, does that have to be disclosed too?
I don't actually know the specifics of the lease because that's a little more complicated with like the residuals and stuff. I know that when we calculate lease payments, it's fairly complicated because of all the lease residual data not being highly accessible here, which is honestly one of the biggest problems we have in Canada is the OEMs don't share any data with the dealers here. So with very few exceptions, your incentives have to come from a third party. You know, if I do business in the States, Ford Direct, for example, I can get incentive data directly from them or through their portal, and they will provide that data so I can offer their dealers a better experience. In Canada, no dice. I get a printout grid of Ford incentives that is, you know, someone photocopied at a dealership and sent to us, and that's how we get our incentive data. And so that whole kind of marketplace for automotive data is essentially a monopoly between Chrome and then a couple guys that have each taken their piece. So Chrome/Auto Data has all of the data. Then there will be Ismo Cars has stock photos. Unhaggle has incentives that you can get. But ultimately, you're not getting anything direct from the manufacturer anymore.
Interesting. And I just want to point out, I think we lost Jeff. So
You did.
that's not the first time that's happened. We lose Jeff a lot. No, unfortunately he doesn't have the best internet connection at his store, so sometimes he drops out. So I don't know what questions Jeff had for you guys. I know he had something he wanted to ask, but there are some questions from Rick Buffkin. Yep, good old Rick.
Ask me why I should get that haircut, right?
That'll come later.
The sausage king of Chicago.
So, yeah, that's right. Little Ferris Bueller. But he's wondering if the OEMs have a hand in some of this plug-in script tagging nefariousness.
So to me, and this is not based on facts because I think there's so much information that it would be hard to extrapolate only the facts, but I do know that a lot of OEMs are sold a bill of goods from a vendor, and the vendor is not likely verbally disclosing all aspects of the data capture to them, which means an OEM might ask a dealership or website provider, hey, put this snippet on every single Chevrolet website. They may not know exactly what that data is doing. And I also know of a couple companies that are selling data back to the manufacturers. And this is data that you would think the manufacturers would already have, but they're paying 6 figures plus to buy this data, which means they're clearly not doing a good enough job of collecting it themselves. So I think, in my opinion, and kind of from what I've seen, the OEM is complicit in this, but they don't necessarily always know that. I think they make the problem worse, but I don't actually know that they're knowingly, playing their part in this.
I don't think anyone would give them the credit to knowingly do this. I'm basically saying they're not smart enough to figure that out.
Yeah, and in many cases,
said it.
you do see some of that. Yeah.
Or they're allowing some of these, partners to place these scripts on there, and they don't even know where the data, like you said, the data is being siphoned from. They just know they get it, right? And it's like, okay, well, why don't we use it? It's valuable to us. And it goes on.
And why would the OEM care what's happening to the dealer's data?
Yeah, I mean,
that's not a question we should probably explore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just came out of my mouth. That shouldn't have come out.
That's a good spot, though. I mean, come
on. Yeah, and so also Ed Brooks has hopped in, and he said that they only track. He's speaking for Cars.com. He says that we only track folks that have location services turned on and have the app open, meaning the Cars.com app.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I always wondered that. Yeah, I know. I think it's a great idea. I wasn't knocking it. It's more or less, I just wonder how it operated. So, yeah, because Jeff was talking about various apps not having to be open, and they can still record, the geolocation data, user data.
Well, there's a lot of that going on. Like this, a lot of it came to light probably 8 or more years ago when Google first started sending up their Street View cars. And so what they found is that these Street View cars, the charge against them was that while they were collecting Wi-Fi data, they were accidentally collecting unencrypted usernames and passwords, because while they were just collecting different Wi-Fi network data, they happened to get some for things that weren't secured for whatever reason. The real problem there is what no one was talking about is the fact that Google was collecting all of this Wi-Fi network data. And so they were taking every individual Wi-Fi SSID and its MAC address or whatever they can get their hands on and geolocating that with that car. So while they were doing Street View, which is a free service that they offer to everyone in America, they were also collecting an immense amount of data so that they can then say, we know where that Wi-Fi network is. So if your Android phone sees that network, you don't even need to have your GPS turned on for us to know where you are. And that's why, like on an Android phone, if you turn off Wi-Fi, I don't know if they still do, but they used to pop up and say, your location details will be more accurate if you have Wi-Fi turned on.
The iPhone does that.
Yeah, same thing. And the whole premise is they're using Wi-Fi networks to kind of triangulate essentially where you are as a starting point. And there may be a lot of positive benefits that, are good for you. Like maybe it chooses the right satellites or whatever the case is. But ultimately, I think that a lot of that data capture is also used for many other purposes, because there are still plenty of devices that don't have a GPS antenna, but still have a Wi-Fi signal, and they will then track you through things like that.
I was shocked to find out from somebody how some gas stations will search for MAC addresses in cars. So your car is always searching for a Bluetooth signal, maybe even Wi-Fi. Some of the newer cars are looking to connect to Wi-Fi to update themselves. And when you pull up to a gas pump, some of these gas stations might be looking at that and collecting the data on your car, maybe even siphoning some of your phone data because your phone's on. It's looking for Bluetooth connectivity or a Wi-Fi carrier or a Wi-Fi access point to hit too. And what they're taking there and doing with it is mostly for advertising purposes, so I hear. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling now. But
yeah, but
there's a MAC address, and think of a MAC address as like a digital serial number almost.
Yeah, and that's right. Where everyone that can is collecting that data, because there's so much value in having it if you can turn it into something, and if you can't, there are companies that will buy it off of you and they will turn it into something useful. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of that going on.
Yeah. So remember that scene? And did you ever see Minority Report where? Yes. Yeah. So he has to get his eyes replaced so they can't scan him and figure out who he is. And he gets the new eyes, and he walks through the mall, and they're giving him all these ads based on, who the other person's eyes are. I'm
telling you, man,
we're just about there, aren't we?
Yeah, you can install it now. There's a group out there that, boom, they'll put some form of a camera, and cameras are cheap these days, obviously, in the store, and they'll go to bat and try to recognize people's face, and again, try to match offline with online. So that's the same concept you're talking about.
Yeah, we did some business in fashion retail a couple of years ago, and some of the technology offerings that we were shown where they not only are they tracking, so as you come into the store, it tracks your face and it looks it up in the database, and if they know who you are, the point of sale system will pull up your last order so that they can say, hey, do you still like that watch that you got? Because, I'm really happy with that purchase. But then as that person walks through the store, there are hidden cameras built into the shelves that are measuring their level of enjoyment or disdain or their reaction to certain things. So you can now A/B test your product displays based on the facial reaction of the people that are coming in and looking at them. Now, we were luxury fashion retail, which meant that there was a budget for trying that type of concept. And we didn't try some of the crazy ones, but these ones they cover your entire store in cameras. They track everything from your body language to your facial expressions to build insights into how people are reacting to your store, what products are they interested in, what product might they buy next time they're in the store. I mean, the amount of data they can extrapolate from that is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, they can do behavioral analysis and things. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, the tool I was talking about was FindFace Pro. You go to findface.pro. I mean, it's face recognition for retail. It's exactly what you're talking about. Customer activity analysis, promotions, targeted advertising, CSAT measurement. I don't know what that is. Don't miss the VIP. They can do so much crazy stuff and market to you right in your face in real time. So it's wild.
Yeah, and that's and there's a bunch of like the Wi-Fi ones too. If you look at a lot of these Wi-Fi customer solutions where you go to your favorite restaurant, you sign into their Wi-Fi, you think to yourself, okay, well, they're getting my email address, so that's why they're doing that, and that's what I'm kind of paying in exchange for Wi-Fi. But in reality, that email address is going into a massive nationwide network of users. So the next time you're walking, past some hot dog shop on the street, if they sign up for that same service provider, their Wi-Fi company or the provider for this gateway will tell them, Alexander Loud just walked by your business. And they can then say, I want to email Alex. It will not give them your email address, but it will say, here's a button to press, and you can send him an email of one of your promo emails. So we had numerous employees that were able to replicate this. They'd be walking down the street and they're like, see, these guys use the same company for Wi-Fi because I just got an email from CloudFi or whatever it's called. And they're advertising to me. And that stuff is what they're trying to make illegal, but writing the legislation in such a way that the good guys can still do what they want to do while the annoying advertisers can't go too far is a very tricky thing.
Yeah, and who are the good guys? The question. So.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where, like the GDPR, there are numerous companies that just couldn't comply with that. They just started blocking anyone that was under GDPR rule because they could not comply with that and still have a revenue model. Because if your product is free and the only revenue you get is from advertising, some of the GDPR implementations just made no sense. Like you couldn't be profitable doing it.
And how long do you think it is before some of this comes to the United States or in Canada?
Yeah, Canada, I think, might be a little bit ahead only because it's slightly more manageable. And the CRTC, which is kind of our regulatory body.
What does that stand for?
Canadian Radio Television Communication.
So like the FTC here?
Yes, more or less.
We're all federal here.
Yes. So there's been some talk about things like that. But ultimately, I think America is a place where big corporate interests are going to push that back for a very long time. I don't know that the good forces are going to be able to go up against the lobbyists when we all know how that system works. I mean, those lobbying for government change is just incredibly strong force. And you saw a lot of this with like the net neutrality debates. The net neutrality debates on paper made perfect sense.
That's
and anyone who loves Netflix was saying, hey, net neutrality, we need this. Like this must be in there, yelling in the streets about it. But there was a ton of wording in there talking about lawful content. So they were saying, all lawful content cannot be choked and tethered and slowed down. But that was then giving the government the ability to say that content over there is not lawful and it can be throttled. And that wasn't legislation until net neutrality came along and included that kind of as a little bit of a subsection in it. So you get situations like, and I certainly don't want to get into it, but the Alex Jones situation, where you get people who are getting kicked off of all these social networks, and the same people that were saying we need net neutrality, all bites are equal, are also saying, well, all bites except for the bites from Alex Jones. Those bites are not equal. And so those same people advocating for one are now fighting against the other. And it gets very complicated. And then when you start looking at corporate interests on top of that, I mean, it's, if the GDPR is a great success and everyone loves it, maybe it will come over.
Yeah.
That is all right. You make some hugely valid points. Yeah, and the net neutrality one really drove it home for me because I championed that one personally.
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah, I pushed that as much as I could to some of my friends, and yeah, most people don't follow it. No. So, yeah. So I do want to apologize to the people who are watching on Facebook. We've had some connection issues today. And it looks like we are delayed from the live feed by, it almost seems like as much as 5 minutes. So normally we would take more Facebook questions and dive into some things a little deeper, but we've moved so far ahead of the points that you're watching and posting to that it wouldn't be relevant. So apologies there. And I do want to send big thanks out to Craig and Alex for joining us today and putting a voice and a face behind the avatars that we see all the time on the forums. And next week we'll be back with on August 24th with Erica Sims from Dealer Authority. And
she's great.
Yeah, it'll be actually. I'm very excited about this. I know Jeff is too. We haven't had a female on Refresh Friday yet.
She's super smart. I've heard her speak many times. She's great.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Not just because she's a woman, but because she's pretty smart too. But no, it sucks. We're like 27, 28 episodes in since Jeff and I started doing this together, and we haven't had a female guest on. We've tried. They haven't wanted to come on, understandably so. Maybe we're I don't know. Maybe Erica can break that for us. But but yes, we're going to be talking about mobile websites and optimizing those for SEO and a couple other things. So anyway, Erica, next week, Dealer Authority. And we've got Craig and Alex here today. Thanks for your time, fellas.
No problem.